Hope you all are doing okay. It's BC Day here in Colombia, and we decided to take a drive out to Lafarge Lake. I thought it was one of those big lakes where it could get wet and stuff, but it's not. But it's nice. It's a nice park in Coquitlam. We've never really spent any time in Coquitlam before, but we're here and it's nice. It's a nice place.
You're trying to convince yourself.
No, it's near the mountains and it looks pretty clean. In the city center, we're in the town center right now. So this little pond, Lafarge Lake, behind us is in the city center. So we're here. We're going to talk about the cost of living.
Wait. Before we go any further. So guys, we haven't uploaded any video in quite some time. And that's because we took a break. Went on a little vacation. And it was awesome. Drove from here to Alberta, Calgary. The experience was amazing. The scenery. We might drop one or two pictures here and there so you can get a glimpse, a snippet of what we saw. But from that vacation, we wanted to bring you some information as we prepare to come to Canada. So that's where this video is coming from today. Okay? And as usual, make sure you subscribe, like, comment, share. Alright? Babe, over to you.
So we're going to talk about the cost of living in Canada, right? And it's something that too many immigrants overlook. I mean, we didn't spend a lot of time looking at it either when we were coming. Of course, 2017 when we came, it was way more affordable than now. With the volatility in the oil market and then Russia attacking Ukraine, it has changed everything. So, I mean, I would say now we're spending about 15% more than we spent in 2017 for the same goods and services. So it's something that I think is important for you to consider. Even if you're here in Canada, you need to look at it. It has become so concerning to us that we're looking at relocating to another province. We are in BC. And we are seriously contemplating and praying and just looking into the Atlantic provinces, namely New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, to see if it's better for us to move from BC, given especially the higher cost of housing. That's our main concern.
Yes.
Right, because in BC, housing costs have skyrocketed, and
it's always been high, but
it's been high, but it's skyrocketed now.
No.
So we are looking into what is best for us, and that's why we're sharing this with you, so you can look at what's best for you. Alright, so first things first, there are two taxes in Canada. One is a goods and sales tax, that's the GST. Every province has that, but the rates differ, right? The GST, and then you have the PST, the provincial sales tax. Or so sometimes you will hear about the harmonized sales tax, which is some provinces combine the goods and services tax with the provincial sales tax, and then you have a harmonized sales tax, right? So provinces that have a harmonized sales tax have one rate. Those provinces are New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, and Newfoundland and Labrador. You hardly hear about Newfoundland and Labrador. Hardly, I don't know why, but
it's cold and far.
maybe because it's cold, right?
It's very far.
And that's a concern across Canada, cold. But I can tell you in British Columbia, we have milder winters here. Okay?
In the lower mainland, because it's harsh in Kelowna.
It's harsher in other parts,
Interior.
but lower mainland usually has a milder winter. And across BC, you will have milder winters in other provinces, right? And that has to do with the terrain. BC is very mountainous, so the mountains buffer a lot of the weather elements.
Right.
All right. So that's one of the reasons. Anyway, that's a different thing you have to look at. So those provinces that I mentioned a while ago have a harmonized sales tax. What is the rate? 15%.
That's
One
high.
five. And that's the highest tax rate in Canada. Now we're looking at it. How do these provinces have the highest goods and services tax on commodities and services, right? But the cost of housing is lower, comparatively lower than British Columbia, Ontario, right? And it comes down to basic economics, demand. The demand for housing in BC is increasing steadily. The figure I don't know, but based on what we've observed, a lot of new houses, a lot of new apartments, a lot of new condos are being built. And there's a waiting list in some cities for apartments, right? So people are actually, if you're in real estate, you know the real terms, they're purchasing before even the development begins, right? So that's how the demand is. So the demand for housing in BC drives up the price. So houses is very expensive, right? And I discussed it before in a Facebook Live I did sometime last year, in spring last year. So that's it. So those four provinces, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, and Newfoundland and Labrador, have that 15% one tax. And when you look at it, it's high. High, why? Provinces like Alberta have a 5% GST. And we went to Alberta recently and we saw the difference.
We felt
Right?
the
We
difference.
felt the
And it
difference.
felt good.
And because we live in BC and we have a GST and PST, we could tell the difference because the GST here is 5% as well. But Alberta doesn't have a provincial sales tax. BC does,
Which is
and that's
7%.
7%. So overall, you could say BC's harmonized sales tax is 12%. Still lower than the Atlantic provinces, right? But high when you look at when you're purchasing stuff. The other thing is housing is high in BC,
You can't
right?
buy a house in BC.
Fuel is also higher in BC as compared to Alberta.
Alberta.
When we were in Alberta, we bought 1 liter for $1.75, right? For 1 liter of fuel. 87 regular fuel. In BC, that same time, it was 1.94, right? $1.94.
And
So
$2 some places.
and $2 some places, right? So that's a 20 cents difference. And if you have a car, you know what the difference in cents is,
You literally feel it though.
right? You feel it because we were able to fill our tank in Alberta for $60, right? And in BC,
cannot.
it's 80 and upwards, depending on where you go. So that's something to consider. Manitoba and BC has the same. They have two taxes, the GST 5%, the PST 7%. So BC and Manitoba has the same tax rates in terms of goods and services, right? New Brunswick, Newfoundland, Labrador, of course, has 15%. Now, Northwest Territories, and you hardly hear about that as well, a territory that's further north, right? So those territories you don't hear much about because they are colder in winter, really cold, and their winter lasts longer, right? And so most immigrants don't venture to the northern territories really. Some do, but most stay down south, right? Nunavut is 5%, and then Quebec. Those of you who are interested in going to Quebec, Quebec has a 5% GST and 9.975% PST. You can call it 10%. Right? So that's 15% altogether. Right? Saskatchewan and Yukon. Saskatchewan is 5% GST, 6% PST. So those are two taxes. Right? And Yukon has 5%. Okay? So Yukon, Nunavut, Northwest Territories, and Alberta has a 5% tax. Now let's talk about Alberta, right? Alberta is turning out to be the cheapest province in Canada. Why? The tax is low, 5%. The cost of fuel is lower, right?
Housing.
And the cost of housing is lower, right? The only drawback is the environment, the natural environment in Alberta. It's
Not
flat,
a fan.
right? We're not a fans of that, but it's flat. If you do geo, you know what that means. It's like a
Shape
plate,
like bummy.
right? So it's
According to the
open.
them.
It's open all to all the elements. If it's summer, all the heat is bearing down
Right.
on Alberta.
It's really hot.
If it's winter,
It's really cold.
all the cold is coming down, right? There's nothing to buffer the weather elements in Alberta. The same thing goes to Saskatchewan, and that's why the winters there are harsher. But that is something that every immigrant has to get used to wherever you are in the country,
Have to adjust.
because there are 4 distinct seasons. All right, so we're not going to get into that. No, housing. We've been looking at housing, of course, because we are looking at moving from BC. And to be honest, what you can get in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia for the money, you can't get in BC. And remember this, $1 in BC is $1 in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia.
Right.
Or Alberta, the same dollar. But you get more bang for your buck, right, in those provinces. For example, a 3-bed, 2-bath, right, in Nova Scotia is in the 300s, somewhere in the 200s, right? You will never find that over here in BC. And everybody in the world, everybody in Canada, when you come here, you want a place to call home, right? You don't want to be paying rent. And if you stay in BC, you will find that you'll be paying rent for years because you simply can't afford housing. It's expensive. Nice houses are here, houses are for sale, but I mean, it's for us immigrants,
It's harder.
it's harder. No,
Not saying it's
How-
not possible.
yeah,
I mean,
Even-
everybody's situation different, but generally speaking, it's very hard to obtain.
I'm gonna give you some figures so you can see what we're
here.
talking about. So, and in Alberta as well, it depends on where you go. So you have Edmonton, and up north, then you have Calgary down south. But between Calgary and Edmonton, you have Red Deer, a smaller city. But in the other parts, for example, you have Canmore that we stopped at
Right.
and we looked at. You can get a 1-bed, 1-bath apartment to rent for $2,000, $2,500 in
That
Canmore.
is ridiculous.
Right, that's
That
high.
is ridiculous.
In Banff, beautiful place,
Oh,
is the same thing, right?
Amazing
Canmore
place.
and Banff have a similar rent. However, parking is so cheap in Banff, $3 per hour. That's cheap, right? And the PS, when you buy food in Banff, you would think it's expensive. No, I mean again, it's a goods and services tax. So when you purchase things from stores and stuff, you will find that it's relatively easy, right? And you won't feel your pocket burning, but until it comes on to rent in those, places. And in BC, what we found out recently on our road trip is that this province is a tourism province, and every small town is a tourist town, right? It's a resort town. It's not just the big city. So if only the rent in Golden, where we have a special relationship with Golden now, is the same rate near Vancouver, Burnaby, Richmond,
Because they
Surrey.
get a lot of tourists.
Right, because I get a lot of tourists. Even when we're driving through, all the motels and hotels were fully booked. So because BC is so popular for the sceneries and the rivers and waterfalls and lakes, people come here a lot from all over the country and the world.
And the milder weather, you have a
Yeah,
lot of
and the milder weather,
Canadians that
right?
move this side.
And the weather is milder, so and the summer is beautiful as it's getting behind us right now. So it's the demand for BC that makes the province so expensive. Does it need to be so expensive?
No.
No, it doesn't, but it's economics, right? High demand drives up prices, right? Low demand, prices stay stable, right? And that's the main difference. The housing demand is not so high in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, right? And more people are leaving those provinces than going. People are going, right? But more are leaving to the Ontario, the Toronto, Greater Toronto area, or the BC, right? Because the provinces, of course, are larger. So you have more development and everything, hence more job opportunities, right? So people naturally want to move where there are more job opportunities, understandably. So I'm going to stick this in here. When you're coming to Canada, if you're coming, that idea you have, that passion you have, think about it seriously, and when you get here and you settle, start looking how you can start that business. Because if we decide, if God says, okay, stay in BC, it is business that will allow us to afford the cost of living here. And you will find that the research I did back in 2019, 75 to 80% of British Columbians are involved in business, whether their own business or hi, or they are you know, involved in it as a partner or something. But a high percentage of people in BC are involved in entrepreneurship, directly or indirectly. So you find that you can live well in BC if you're doing business. Okay,
And the business is doing well.
and the business is doing well. That is true for everywhere you go in Canada. Okay, because there are expensive houses in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. The beautiful thing, we haven't gone to Nova Scotia or New Brunswick yet. We're going to go to, you know, do a recce and see if that's where it should be. Is that your business quickly finds roots and can grow in a developing province. And that's what those provinces are, developing. BC is pretty much, well, not BC, but
Where we live,
the
in
Vancouver area, and those cities around, you know, that where we are now, Coquitlam and Burnaby and all those places are developed. They are expanding, but they are pretty much developed. Right? So, you know, those things, you know, look at the demand for housing. Go online, everything is online. Go online and search for housing in New Brunswick, housing in BC, and compare it. I can tell you off the bat that you will find cheaper housing in Alberta, New Brunswick, Saskatchewan, right? However, you need to determine how much winter you can handle, a bunch of sandflies, right?
Up from nowhere.
So these are some of the things you need to consider. In addition to the goods and sales taxes that you buy when you go to the supermarket and stuff, you have income taxes. Income taxes is crazy. Okay, I'm going to give you estimates right here. The first 50 grand, you pay 15% tax, income tax. That's high. Okay. When you start going above 50 grand now into the second 50 grand, you pay 20% estimate.
Ridiculous.
Right? You pay 20% on the second 50 grand. The third 50 grand, you pay 25%. So, in Canada, the more you earn, the more taxes you pay. And they split up your income into 50s, into like so. So every other 50 grand you make, the income tax is higher. So alright, I'm going to use myself as an example. I can tell you, I'm not ashamed. Currently, I get $60,000 per annum. That's on paper. 60 grand, that's my salary now. Praise God for that, right?
Mine is so together. I am what, 70.
But the income, you take home income is 66. Cash is 66, and I'm 60,
After
right?
tax.
No man, no,
before.
that's before.
Well,
that's before
tax.
Okay, now I'm telling you the gross right now. I'm 60, she's 66. I
So
take
you leave
home.
out, it's more, but there's a part of my salary that is not taxed.
No, Tasha has a special job with a special non-profit organization
Right.
that gives her perks on top of her
So cumulatively,
income, right?
I'm making
So
70.
we can't talk about the perks. The perks are not taxed,
Right.
and
But there's a
companies
part of it that's
and
not
companies generally don't give perks. So she worked for a company that gives her nice perks, right? I'm talking generally speaking. So 60 grand, I take home approximately 45, right? So 15,000 goes into taxes and other deductions like employment insurance. You'll find that there's something called employment insurance. That is so if you lose your job, you can go to a Service Canada or somewhere, and you can get some income back while you search for another job. And stuff, and CPP, which is Canada Pension Plan, and the taxes. So 60, take home 45. 66, she takes home about 48. Right? So you have to and after
That's a drastic difference
yeah, and then
between what's
it's,
on
it's
paper
it's drastic, right?
but the reason I don't complain, as Derville said, the perks serve us well. So I guess that's why I don't complain. But if it was just the 66 by itself, 66 on paper, and I'm taking home 48.
Yeah. So
Not encouraging.
so when you look at the income tax and then the sales taxes or sales tax you pay after your income, that is something you have to also look at as well. And you don't learn these things before you come. Another thing that you have to take into consideration, the provinces with the lower taxes tend to have lower incomes.
Yes. Yes.
So
To keep that
let's
in
say
mind.
I should get the same job in Alberta and I'm getting 60 now. Maybe that same job in Alberta pays 50
40.
or 45, you know. But the provinces with lower taxes tend to pay lower salaries. I don't know why. Maybe that's the reason.
Yeah, because I mean, it makes sense in the type of economy they have, I suppose.
Doesn't make sense to me. Right? But that's something you also have to bear in mind. So if you decide to go to Alberta, you're going to get, and your friend is in BC, and the both of you have the exact position, maybe at the same company or different companies, guess what? Your friend might be getting 70 grand, and you're getting 50 or 55, and you're wondering how come? That's just how it is, because you're paying less tax in Alberta. You know what I mean? That's just how it works. So you have to plan your finances, and it's a curve, but you have to learn how Canada works. And that's the reason I encourage you, when you come and you settle, to look at that thing that you can do for business.
All this fly
Right?
just
These
come
flies
out
are
of
coming in,
nowhere.
and sunflies. I guess it's just water and stuff. Yeah. So that's another thing. All right. So I want to show you minimum wage, and they have minimum wage by province, right? And that's very important, because most of us immigrants, when we come, we're going to start with a minimum wage job. I started at Walmart in 2017, and my pay per hour was $12.50. I got a raise after that to $12.95. All right, it's funny. It's funny, right? But because Canada was cheaper back then, right? You would be surprised how God just blessed the salary, because our rent was 1,600
And
plus
it didn't include utilities.
plus utilities,
And
right?
he paid my school fee.
And I was the one working full time. Tash was studying at the time, and I managed to pay a good amount of her school fee as well,
And you
while at
paid all of
Walmart
it.
on 12. So right now they had to increase the minimum wage in BC. It is now $15.65. That is to show you, and that is not keeping up with inflation either. That's behind inflation. So I'm going to go through the provinces minimum wage
Can you pause and move?
per hour. Alright guys, yeah, so we had to move because the flies, hopefully it's better right here. So, minimum wage by province. Alberta, it's $15 per hour. BC, $15.65. I think it should be $17.50 at least, because here's Manitoba, $11.95. Ridiculous, because they have a 5% GST and 7% PST, right? So and this is based on 2022. It should increase this October in Manitoba, it says, from $11.95 to $12.35. So they're adding 40 cents on it, which I think is still ridiculous. Okay, that's my opinion, because I've worked in BC on minimum wage before, and I've seen how inflation has pushed up the price of everything, right? So you have New Brunswick is $12.75. I won't cost New Brunswick because at least they have lower cost of housing, right? Newfoundland and Labrador is $13.20. Northwest Territories is $15.20. When you look at that, and they have a 5% tax, right? Nova Scotia is $13.35. Nunavut is $16. Ontario, $15. Prince Edward Island is $13.70. Quebec is $14.25. Saskatchewan is $11.81. I don't know where they get that figure. $11.81. Let me see what they're saying here. It will increase to 13 on October 1, 2023. So next year, it will increase to 13, and then it will increase to 14 in October 2024, will increase to 15. So,
but Saskatchewan is one of those provinces that we always hear it's cheaper to live.
yeah,
It's way more affordable, especially if you're comparing it to BC.
that's what we did hear that.
From persons who've lived there, so
there is one more, a territory, Yukon, which is $15.70. Now, you can find all this information on like on retailcouncil.org. Just go online, right? Don't just sit back. A part of preparing to come to Canada is reading. If you fail to read, you're going to have a harder time adjusting. Okay? Especially if you're going to go to BC or Ontario, which are the two most expensive provinces. I believe Vancouver right now is the most expensive city in North America, believe it or not. Right? So if you love the big city life, read so you can be prepared. Okay? Because
I think another thing that is important, and this is something that we didn't know prior to coming. I remember when I was coming, one of the things I kept saying to Babe, having lived in the States, I was just thinking, this is everywhere and not for specific places. But one of the things I kept saying to Babe when we were coming is that, we'll be able to get tax return on my school fee, which was quite a lump sum. So I was, operating in the notion that I'm going to get back some money on this. Not so. And that's something too that you could probably look into and read up on, because you want to go to places where you can get back some money. So we weren't able to get back any money on the school fee, while in Ontario my girlfriend was able to get back quite a lump sum on her school fee. So, and that helps you out, especially as an international student who's working part-time for most of the time. That's a little income, so to speak, that you can look forward to. So read, do your research, ask questions in your preparation to move to Canada.
Alright, so I'm going to go through some figures here, and these figures aren't concrete, right? Give and take, right? I'm just going to give you a kind of an estimate of what you can expect to pay for rent in Canada. I'm going to break it down by province, right? You can find rent at these rates, but when you get here, it can be more, it can be less, but this is a ballpark. Alberta, 12 to 1300, okay, per month. Northwest Territories is 1200 average. BC, 1200, and this is 1 bed, 1 bath, right? Basic, 1 bed, 1 bath. Ontario is 1100, 11 to 1200. Can be less. Again, it's give or take. It can be more, it can be less. It depends on where you look. The closer you are to the city, the more you're going to pay. Okay? The big city, that is. So if you're closer to Toronto, your rent is going to go up. The farther away you move, your rent is likely to go down by a couple $100, right? Same thing in BC. The closer you are to Vancouver, the higher your rent is going to be. And it depends again on the community and the size of the rental unit. Then in Yukon is 1,000. Saskatchewan relatively 1,000 as well. Nova Scotia 900. Manitoba 800 to 900. Newfoundland 800. Prince Edward Island 800. Quebec between 7 and 800. New Brunswick between 7 and 8 again. Nunavut between 7 and 8. I want you to look again, the provinces we mentioned first with the lower cost of housing. They are the ones with lower rent. 700, 800. So this is the reason we are really praying and contemplating the move, because it's coming to the time when we want to select a place to have our home.
Babe, coming to the time is here.
It's coming to, because
The time
we are
is
not
here.
there financially as yet. That's
No,
what
no,
I'm
no.
saying.
When
Coming
I said the time
to.
is here, meaning right now we're at that place in our journey where we want to obtain a house.
That's the reason we're looking to move from the Pacific coast to the Atlantic coast, right? Because the primary reason, the cost of housing. The second reason is on Tasha's end, where she wants to be closer to a flight to Jamaica,
And
where we
Miami,
come from,
Jamaica
right?
or Miami.
Or Jamaica or Miami,
That's where
or
my family is. So
relatives are, right? So it's something to really consider when you are moving here. We didn't touch on everything. We gave you some very important bits and pieces to really contemplate and to do some more research on your own when you're moving, even if you're moving to study, right? These things are important because the place you study in, most people tend to stay there, right, after they're done. But when you look at how things are changing in Canada in terms of cost of living and the cost of housing, you really want to, take some time to look at that before you come. So especially those persons who love the bigger cities, look at it. Because you're going to get the nice houses that you want is over $1 million you're going to pay for one. And you want to look at some of the monthly mortgages that we research. $2,000, $2,500, $3,000 and upwards in BC and Ontario.
That's crazy.
In New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, you're looking at 1,300, 1,600.
Some of them were
so
even
on,
under $1,000.
and some were under 1,000. But you want to make sure that you are at an affordable province where you can pay that mortgage. And when we talk about mortgage, please do your best when it's time to purchase a house to purchase a income earner house. What that means is a house with a coach house or a basement suite, a legal basement suite that you can rent, because your rent the rent you charge to a tenant may be able to cover your mortgage, so you don't even have to touch your other income. Right. And because we're trying to build a business which will become, it will take root. It just takes time to build a business. We want to make sure that we make the right choice so that where we are, we can stay there for the long term. Right? Not saying you can't do it in British Columbia or Ontario.
You can do it anywhere.
You can do it anywhere, but the cost is important. And remember, $1 in BC is $1 in New Brunswick or Nova Scotia. Okay? The same dollar. But you get more bang for your buck in those provinces on the Atlantic because housing is lower. And then, you have to maneuver the higher tax rate of 15% versus a 5% in Alberta. You can't beat Alberta, right? Because Alberta produces its own oil, right? So you can't beat them with oil prices. You really can't beat a 5% tax rate, right? And you just have to know what you want. So, different factors come into play when looking for housing, and cost of living is something that you have to take the time to go through.
It affects everyone.
It affects everybody, especially come with children.
Right.
So, we just want to bring that to your attention with this video.
Yeah. Guys, listen. You can take the information and spin it and let it work for you, or you can just ignore it. We thought it would be fitting to share it. I mean, people talk all the time about coming to Canada, but I find that a lot of us don't really sit down and put things into perspective. And a lot of times at the point you are putting it into perspective is when you are somewhat in a hole, So I hope you receive this information and you make it work for you.
Yeah.
As you prepare to come. As usual, if you have any questions, leave it in the comments. Let us know how you feel about the information shared, and we'll continue to answer your questions. subscribe, share the video. Subscribe, share the video. Don't forget, it don't cost them nothing.
And I put together a little book, Immigrating to Canada, Prepare for Change. It's on Amazon. It's $14.99. Go over there and get one. The ebook is there as well for $6.99. Go ahead. I prepared it with all these things in mind to help you with that preparation to come. Whatever questions you have, just reach out and we'll be happy to help.
Alright, guys. Until next time, you are going to be seeing videos from us again every week, we promise. We took a break, it was needed.
We don't promise that anything can happen, but we're going to do our best. We're going to do our best.
What he said. Until next time, guys.
Yep.
Bye.
From Coquitlam.
Low Key family. Bye. Peace.